Usually, when we talk about masks, we think of this, or this, or this. But unfortunately, we are in the era of COVID-19, and the mask that interests us is this, and it's less funny. In this episode, we will explain why this mask is so useful in our fight against COVID-19. How did we get here in the first place? Where did the masks that we use today to protect ourselves from COVID-19 come from? Yes, as you can see, we're gonna go back in time. Over the course of history, masks had already been in use for protection. But initially, it wasn't for medical reasons. The first uses of a mask for health reasons date back to the end of the 19th century. It took a team effort between a German bacteriologist, a Polish surgeon, and a French surgeon in order to develop the use of a mask in a hospital environment. The German bacteriologist Karl Fluge had already demonstrated that respiratory droplets were carriers of bacteria. In 1897, in response to this information, Polish surgeon Johann Mikulicz decided to start wearing a mask in order to avoid spreading bacteria. This mask, at the time, was very basic. It was a piece of light cloth that was used for bandages or compresses. It was held around the head by two strings. Still in 1897, this time in Paris, we find the surgeon Paul Berger. Convinced by the studies of his two colleagues, he decided to wear a mask during a medical operation. With time, the use of fabric masks became more widespread, but we had to wait until the 1960s to see the arrival of the surgical masks we all know now. It then became the standard for doctors, nurses, and all medical personnel. But the medical world is not the only one to wear masks. They were used long before the COVID-19 pandemic that we know today. I am thinking in particular of people who work in construction. Stonemasons use masks to protect themselves from dust and fumes. Mine workers also use masks to avoid breathing in toxic fumes. With all this, I think it's clear. Masks protect. Think of the mask as Captain America's shield. And when two people are talking to each other and they're both wearing masks, the risk of transmission is super low. Double shielding is perfect. Of course, we remind you that the mask must be worn properly. We don't want to see people like this anymore, or this. Just no. A properly adjusted mask is worn like this, on the nose and mouth. That's all. Also, if your mask is washable, it's important to wash it between uses. To come back to its protective side, the mask also has a very important filtering power. Made of at least 2 layers of fabric, the mask traps the droplets. You may remember that we talked about this in the episode on transmission. The mask limits the entry of micro droplets too, which we also talked about. Well, if you're not convinced by its importance, there's not much more I can do for you. Oh, also, there is no danger in wearing either a surgical or fabric mask, even though it might feel that sometimes we're missing a little oxygen. We reassure you, it's just an impression. Wearing a mask is therefore essential. In the worst case scenario, a mask can make you feel the effect of a small change in altitude. So really, no big deal. Obviously, with it, our lives are not the same. Besides, the mask isn't something normal for our culture. It even goes against our habits. Other countries are more used to using a mask than we are. In Japan, for example, the mask has been an accepted part of their life for a very long time. And in that country, masks are used to protect against viruses and microbes, but it doesn't stop there. They're also useful against pollen, air pollution, and even to warm up faces during winter. And here, for the record, we Canadians know very well how important it is to cover ourselves when it's cold. All this to say, we must learn to live with the mask if we want COVID-19 to disappear from our lives as soon as possible. It will allow us all to return to this mask rather than that one. And above all, make sure to protect yourself and others. Bye!